My name is Linda, and if I could turn back time, I would never have opened that message. It started so simply. A friend request from someone I once knew, a few late-night conversations, and suddenly, he became the center of my world. I thought it was love. I thought it was forever. But love, I learned, can hide the sharpest knives behind the softest smiles. His name was Ethan. Charming, confident, and a little reckless. The kind of man who made the world spin faster. We met years ago in college, but life drifted us apart. When he texted me again after all those years, it felt like fate had rewound the clock. I still remember the first time we met again. Coffee shop on Maple Street, the smell of cinnamon and rain in the air, and his eyes lighting up like no time had passed. He told me I hadn't changed at all. I smiled and said the same, even though deep down I knew I had. We started seeing each other more. Dinners that turned into late-night drives, songs we played on repeat, promises that felt so real they could never break. He told me he'd been lonely, that he'd missed me, and I believed him. He made me laugh again, made me feel seen, like maybe the years I spent guarding my heart were finally over. For a while, it felt like a story that was always meant to happen. Two people finding each other again when the timing was finally right. My friends warned me. They said people change, that nostalgia makes you blind. But I didn't care. I wanted to believe in something pure, something that could make sense of all the chaos. I moved into his world, his fancy apartment downtown, the endless parties, the laughter that always felt a little too loud. He had this way of making everything seem effortless. And I was hypnotized by it. I told myself this was love, real love, the kind that fixes you. But slowly, I started noticing things. Late calls he'd step outside to take, weekends when he'd travel for work and come back distant. I tried not to overthink. Love makes you explain away what should be red flags. When he smiled, all my doubts disappeared. When he kissed me, every question dissolved. But deep down, something didn't feel right. It was like standing on glass, clear and beautiful, but fragile under every step. One night, I came home early. His phone buzzed on the counter. He was in the shower. I told myself not to look, that trust meant more than curiosity, but my hands moved before my heart could stop them. The screen lit up with a message that burned itself into my memory. Can't wait to see you again. Heart. I scrolled. There were photos, inside jokes, voice notes, the same things he once shared with me, now given to someone else. I stood there frozen, listening to the water running, realizing that everything I believed in was a lie. My legs felt weak, my breath uneven. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone, to demand answers, but I didn't. I just stood there, watching my reflection in the window, a stranger staring back at me. When he came out, towel around his waist, I asked him calmly, "Who is she?" He didn't deny it. He didn't even look surprised. He just said, "Linda, it's not what you think." But I could see it in his eyes. Guilt, fear, maybe even relief. Relief that the truth was finally out, that he didn't have to keep pretending anymore. In that moment, the man I loved vanished completely. I walked out that night. I didn't pack much. I didn't cry. I just left. The city lights blurred behind the taxi window as I whispered to myself, never again. Because sometimes, leaving isn't weakness. It's survival. And as the rain hit the glass, I realized something powerful. Love doesn't always save you. Sometimes it destroys you first. That was the night Linda died. The version of me who believed love was enough. The woman who replaced her, she's the one telling you this story.
The city looked different when you have nowhere to go. I remember sitting in that taxi watching raindrops chase each other across the glass, trying to figure out where my life ended and where it was supposed to begin again. I didn't have a plan, only a suitcase, a broken heart, and a voice inside whispering, "Keep moving." I rented a small apartment across town, a place that smelled like old paint and freedom. The walls were thin, the lights flickered, but it was mine. For the first few nights, I barely slept. Every creak of the floor sounded like Ethan's voice calling my name. I deleted his number, blocked his social media, but his ghost lingered in my dreams, laughing, lying, loving me like nothing had gone wrong. I tried to rebuild. I filled my days with work, coffee runs, and endless playlists meant to drown the silence. My coworkers smiled at me, unaware that every breath still tasted like heartbreak. I told myself I was fine, that I didn't need anyone. But loneliness has a way of creeping in when the world goes quiet. I'd stare at the city skyline at night, wondering if Ethan ever thought of me, wondering if betrayal ever haunted him the way it haunted me. One evening, while cleaning out old files on my laptop, I found something I'd almost forgotten, a shared cloud folder between us. My heart pounded. I hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won. Inside were photos, old videos, and one new file, dated just a week ago. My fingers trembled as I clicked. The screen filled with static for a second, and then his voice. He said, "Linda, calm. Too calm. If you're listening to this, it means you've seen everything. I know you hate me, and you should, but there are things you don't understand." My stomach twisted. He went on saying names I didn't recognize, mentioning debts, threats, a deal gone wrong. It didn't sound like the Ethan I knew. It sounded like a confession, half apology, half warning. I replayed it twice, every word burning deeper. Then I noticed something. A background sound. A train horn, faint but distinct. Ethan didn't live near the tracks. I zoomed in on the audio, isolating it. My heart raced. The only train line with that horn tone was the old coastal route, hours away. What was he doing there? Why record this message for me? For the first time since I left, I felt something stronger than pain. Curiosity, maybe even fear. I needed answers. The next morning, I packed a small bag, printed a map, and took the first train heading toward the coast. The carriage was cold and the rhythmic clatter of the tracks echoed like my heartbeat. I kept replaying his voice, trying to decide if I was chasing closure or stepping into danger. When I arrived, the town felt forgotten by time. Quiet streets, peeling paint, the salty wind carrying secrets no one wanted to tell. I asked around for Ethan, but people only shook their heads, until one old man at the diner looked up from his coffee and said softly, "You mean the guy renting the old lighthouse? He doesn't come to town much, stays alone, keeps the lights off." My pulse quickened. I walked toward the cliffs as the sky darkened. The lighthouse stood tall against the crashing waves, its light long dead. My hands shook as I climbed the path, each step echoing louder in my chest. I didn't know what I'd find. A confession? A trap? Or maybe the final truth about the man I thought I loved? The door creaked open. The air smelled of salt and dust. And somewhere in the shadows, I heard it. Ethan's voice, whispering my name. The sound of his voice froze me where I stood. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the crashing waves outside. For a second, I thought I was imagining it, that maybe the loneliness and guilt had created him out of memory. But then I heard it again, clearer this time. "Linda," he said, "I knew you'd come." I stepped inside. The air was cold and damp, smelling of rust and seaweed. The light from my phone cut through the darkness, landing on broken furniture, old maps, and photographs scattered across the floor. My breath caught when I saw his silhouette near the window. The same shoulders, the same messy hair. Ethan. He turned slowly, his eyes hollow, his face thinner than I remembered. He looked like a ghost wearing human skin. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "It's not safe."
I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my voice cracked when I spoke. You lied to me, Ethan. You destroyed everything. Why send me that recording? Why lead me here? He looked down, hands trembling. Because you deserve the truth, he said softly, and because they're coming. I frowned. Who's coming? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked to a table and handed me a folded document. Everything I told you was real. I was in trouble long before we met again. I thought I could fix it, but I was wrong. They used you, Linda. They used us both. My hand shook as I unfolded the papers. Bank statements, transactions, photos of people I didn't know. One of them had a mark next to my name. What is this? I demanded. He met my eyes, guilt filling every word. They wanted access to your firm, to your clients. I told them you'd never agree, so they told me to make you trust me again. I thought I could protect you, but his voice cracked. I fell in love with you again, Linda. And when they found out, they turned on me. I felt sick. The room tilted around me. Everything, the messages, the trips, the love, had been part of a plan, a setup. You used me, I whispered. He stepped closer, shaking his head. No, I tried to save you. That's why I sent the message, to warn you before they... A sudden crash outside cut him off. The sound of footsteps on gravel. Ethan's eyes went wide. They're coming. Panic surged through me. He grabbed my hand, pulling me toward a narrow staircase. This way, he said. We raced up the spiraling steps as the front door burst open below. Voices shouted. Footsteps thundered through the lighthouse. My heart felt like it would explode. Ethan, what did you do? I gasped. You don't want to know, he said. Just keep moving. We reached the top. The lantern room was shattered, glass glinting under flashes of lightning. Ethan shoved a metal case into my hands. Take it. Everything you need to clear your name is inside. The files, the recordings, everything. What about you? I asked. His smile was sad, tired. I'm not getting out of this, Linda, but you can. Go before they find you. I hesitated. For all the pain he caused, part of me still loved him, still wanted to believe the man who once held me at midnight under city lights. Ethan, I started, but he stepped back. Go, he said, his voice breaking. Don't make this for nothing. A gunshot rang out. I screamed. Ethan staggered, clutching his shoulder, his eyes meeting mine one last time. Run, he whispered. I turned and fled down the stairs as shadows filled the tower. The case clutched to my chest, tears blurring my vision. Outside, the storm raged, and behind me, the lighthouse erupted in chaos. I didn't stop running until the lights of the town came into view. My heart ached, my mind spiraled, but one thing was clear. The betrayal wasn't over. It had only just begun. I ran until my lungs burned, until the sound of waves was replaced by sirens and shouting. The storm had swallowed the lighthouse behind me. Somewhere in that chaos, Ethan was gone. Maybe dead, maybe lost. But the case in my arms felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. The truth, wrapped in metal and guilt. I reached a motel on the edge of town, trenched and shaking. My hands barely worked as I opened the case. Inside were flash drives, ledgers, and photos connecting Ethan's employers to offshore accounts and illegal data deals. And there, my name, listed under Target. I was nothing more than a pawn in their game. But now, I had proof. The next hours were a blur. I sent copies of the files to my firm, to the authorities, to every journalist who'd ever emailed me. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages, calls, chaos. But I ignored them all. I just sat there in silence, listening to the rain ease against the window. Ethan had destroyed my trust, yes, but maybe in the end, he had also given me something back, the truth. The next morning, headlines flooded the internet. Tech scandal exposed. Whistleblower reveals data ring. My firm went into lockdown. Executives were arrested, and my name? Cleared. but none of it felt like victory. It felt hollow, like standing in the wreckage of a life I once thought was love. Days later, I got a message from an unknown number. One line. You did what I couldn't. ... Dash E. My heart stopped. Was he alive? I didn't know. Maybe he was out there, watching from some forgotten corner of the world. Maybe he'd finally found peace. But for me, peace was harder to find. I stood by the ocean that evening, the sun dipping low, turning the water gold. The same sea that took him now whispered like a lullaby. I thought about everything we were, the laughter, the lies, the promises we never kept. Love had betrayed me, yes, but it had also taught me something I'd never forget, that sometimes the person who breaks you is also the one who sets you free. I took the case one last time and threw it into the waves. It sank, swallowed by the same sea that held all our secrets. For a moment, I let the wind hit my face, let the salt sting my eyes, and I finally let go. Of him, of pain, of everything I used to be. As I walked away from the shore, the city lights flickered on in the distance. A new life waited out there. Uncertain, imperfect, but mine. I smiled through the tears and whispered, "Goodbye, Ethan." Maybe love and betrayal are two sides of the same coin. One destroys you, the other rebuilds what's left. And when the storm clears, you finally see what remains. Not who you lost, but who you became. My name is Linda, and this is how love almost ruined me. But instead, it saved me.